On a cold night in California, two teenagers parked on a lonely road, expecting nothing more than a quiet moment together. Minutes later, they were dead. No warning, no robbery, no clear motive, just gunshots in the dark and silence. At first, police thought it was another tragic double murder. A terrible crime, yes, but one that would eventually be solved. They were wrong, because the man responsible wasn't just a killer. He wanted attention, he wanted fear, and more than anything, he wanted the world to know his name. Months later, newspapers across Northern California received chilling letters from a man claiming responsibility for multiple murders. Inside those letters were coded messages, threats, and one terrifying signature. "This is the Zodiac speaking." He didn't just kill, he called the police. He mailed evidence. He mocked investigators. He turned murder into a twisted game. And then he disappeared. For more than half a century, the Zodiac Killer has remained one of the most infamous unsolved mysteries in American history. But to understand how one man could terrify an entire nation, you have to go back to where it all began. December 20th, 1968, Lake Herman Road, near Vallejo, California. It was the kind of road people avoided after dark, isolated, quiet, surrounded by emptiness. That night, 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen and 17-year-old David Faraday parked there in David's station wagon. Young, innocent, just two teenagers spending time together. Sometime before midnight, someone approached their car. What happened next was quick and brutal. David was shot near the vehicle. Betty Lou tried to run. She never made it far. She was gunned down in the darkness. When police arrived, the scene was horrifying. Two teenagers murdered with no obvious reason. No witnesses, no clear suspect, no robbery, no explanation. Just an empty road, and the beginning of a nightmare nobody understood yet. At the time, investigators had no idea that this was the opening chapter of something far worse. 7 months later, July 4th, 1969. While fireworks exploded across the sky, another young couple sat parked at Blue Rock Springs Park, just a few miles from the first attack. Inside the car were Darlene Ferrin and Mike Mageau. Just after midnight, another vehicle pulled up behind them. At first, it seemed harmless, maybe someone passing through. The car drove away. Then it came back. This time, the driver stepped out and approached them with a flashlight. For a split second, Mike and Darlene may have thought it was a police officer. It wasn't. Without warning, the man opened fire into the car. Darlene was hit multiple times. Mike was shot and badly wounded. Then, in one of the most chilling details of the entire case, the attacker started to walk away. But hearing Mike moan in pain, he turned around, came back, and fired again. Darlene would later die. Mike survived, but the terror didn't end there. About 40 minutes later, someone called the Vallejo Police Department. The voice was calm, cold, emotionless. The caller reported the shooting, gave the location, and then casually admitted responsibility not only for that attack, but for the murders on Lake Herman Road. The killer had just phoned in his own crime, and from that moment on, police knew they weren't dealing with a random murderer. They were dealing with someone who wanted to be heard. Less than a month later, the fear spread far beyond the crime scenes. On August 1st, 1969, 3 newspapers received nearly identical letters. Each one contained disturbing details about the murders. Details only the killer would know. But that wasn't all. Each envelope also contained part of a cipher, a coded message made up of strange symbols. And then came the threat. If the newspapers didn't publish the cipher on the front page, he would go on a killing spree. The message was clear. This wasn't just a murderer. This was a man performing for the public. a man who wanted control, a man who wanted fear to spread through every home, every street, every headline. Soon after, he sent another letter, and in that letter he introduced himself with words that would become infamous. "This is the Zodiac speaking." Just like that, a faceless killer gave himself a name, and a legend was born. The first cipher, made of 408 symbols, was eventually solved by a school teacher and his wife. People expected it to reveal the killer's identity. It didn't. Instead, it revealed something even more disturbing. The message was rambling, bizarre, and deeply unsettling. The killer claimed that murdering people was fun, that it was better than hunting animals, and that his victims would become his slaves in the afterlife. There was no name, no confession of identity, only ego, madness, and a hunger for attention. That made the case even more terrifying because it meant the Zodiac wasn't just hiding from police, he was toying with them. Then came the attack that changed everything. September 27th, 1969. Lake Berryessa. It was a peaceful afternoon by the water. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were relaxing on a blanket near the shore. Then they saw a man walking toward them. He wasn't dressed like a normal attacker. He wore a strange black executioner-style hood covering his face. On the chest area was a white crossed circle symbol, the same symbol the Zodiac used in his letters. He approached them carrying a gun. At first, he claimed he was an escaped convict who just wanted money and a car. But that story was a lie. He bound them both with pre-cut lengths of rope. Then, in a horrifying turn, he pulled out a knife and stabbed them repeatedly. Before leaving, he calmly walked to Brian's car door and wrote a message on it, the dates of previous attacks. And now, a new one. It was like signing a piece of artwork. Brian survived. Cecilia later died from her injuries. This attack was different. It showed the Zodiac wasn't tied to one method. He could shoot, he could stab, he could improvise, he could change, and that made him even more unpredictable. Just 2 weeks later, October 11th, 1969. This time, the Zodiac struck in the heart of San Francisco. His victim was Paul Stein, a taxi driver. Paul picked up a passenger that night, a regular fare, nothing unusual. But when the cab reached its destination, the passenger pulled out a gun and shot Paul in the head. Then, in an act so disturbing it felt almost unreal, the killer tore away a piece of Paul Stein's bloody shirt. That detail would become crucial, because soon after letters arrived again, and inside one of them was part of that shirt. Proof. The Zodiac wasn't bluffing. He was showing police that he could kill in a busy city, walk away, and still have the confidence to mail them evidence afterward. Even worse, police nearly caught him. Witnesses saw the suspect and reported him. But due to a communication mistake, officers were reportedly looking for the wrong description. The Zodiac may have walked right past police that night and vanished into the darkness. If true, it was one of the most painful missed opportunities in criminal history. Over the years, investigators chased many leads, but one name would rise above all others: Arthur Lee Allen. He became the most famous suspect in the Zodiac case. Why? Because several details seemed eerily suspicious. He reportedly owned a Zodiac brand watch that featured a symbol similar to the killer's crosshair logo. People who knew him claimed he made disturbing comments. He lived within reach of the crime scenes. And over time, more and more fingers pointed in his direction. For many people, he looked like the answer. But the deeper investigators went, the murkier it became. Fingerprints didn't clearly match. Handwriting comparisons were disputed. DNA evidence never definitively tied him to the crimes. He remained the prime suspect in the public imagination, but never the confirmed killer. And that's the cruel genius of the Zodiac mystery. Every promising lead eventually seems to collapse. Every answer comes with doubt. Then there were the ciphers. Some were solved, some weren't. One of the most famous, known as the 340 cipher, remained unsolved for more than 50 years. For decades, people believed cracking it might finally reveal the Zodiac's identity. It didn't. When it was finally solved in 2020, it revealed more taunting, more twisted rambling, but no clear name. Once again, the killer had outsmarted expectation. Even his puzzles were traps. He gave the world clues, but never the one clue that mattered most. Who was he? That question still haunts the case. Did the Zodiac stop killing? Did he die? Did he go to prison for another crime? Did he simply move away? Or did he keep killing in places where nobody connected the dots? That uncertainty is what makes the story so powerful. Because, unlike most famous serial killer cases, there is no clean ending, no courtroom confession, no dramatic arrest, no final verdict. Just silence. A man appears out of nowhere, kills, writes letters, toys with the media, terrifies a state, then fades into history like smoke. No one knows for sure when the real Zodiac ended. And maybe that's what makes him so terrifying. Not just that he killed, but that he left without ever being forced to answer for it. More than half a century later, the Zodiac Killer remains one of the darkest ghosts in American history. His crimes were brutal. His letters were chilling. His ciphers fascinated the world. But the most disturbing part of all is that he may have gotten exactly what he wanted. Immortality. Not because he was the deadliest killer, not because he killed the most, but because he turned murder into myth. He made himself unforgettable, a faceless predator hiding behind symbols, codes, and headlines. And somewhere between truth and legend, the Zodiac Killer vanished. Maybe he was caught for something else. Maybe he died peacefully. Maybe he watched the panic he created from the shadows and smiled. We may never know. And that is exactly why the Zodiac Killer still terrifies the world.